When this guy spots a group of goblins drinking water, he doesn't rush to attack them with his fists or some kind of weapon. Instead, he uses his skill and opens his inventory to pull out something, like a Pokemon ball, to summon his own goblin slave, and he throws it right at them. Unfortunately, it falls short and drops to the ground before even reaching the target. That's not how it's supposed to work, and it startles the goblins just as much as it startles our boy. Quickly spot RMC and rush to kill him. He has no choice but to use his fists after all, but it soon becomes obvious that the goblins are going to kill him. Luckily, the summoning works after a short delay, and the goblin slave saves him at the last moment. The other goblins don't stand a chance. He kills them mercilessly, leaving nothing but a bloodbath behind. After the victory, the goblin slave becomes even stronger and raises all his stats. Yet this goblin slave is only the starting point. Our boy has many more summons to unlock. To do that, he has to kill a lot more monsters. Though that's not a problem at all, because what could be more fun than defeating monsters with other monsters, right? But just a short while ago, everyone thought he was a complete failure, with no chance of ever becoming a hunter. It's the proudest day for any graduating hunter, and our boy is no exception. At the Hunter Association Stadium, he finally walks onto the stage to receive his highly coveted hunter license, having officially graduated as an E-rank hunter. This youth is full of ambition, having worked his ass off to reach this point. You see, he is an awakener of the lowest rank, meaning he was born into this world playing on hard mode. He literally had to study twice as much as a regular awakener, just to bridge the gap left by his mediocre rank. However, hitting the books hard did help him accumulate so much knowledge about dungeons and monsters, but he currently stands at the pinnacle of theory, leaving even the most blessed awakeners in the dust. So in this moment he feels a deep sense of pride. At long last, he's being granted the privilege of becoming a real hunter. Unfortunately, the cold and harsh attendant distributing the certificates ruins everything. That arrogant man literally tears his certificate in two, claiming that being an E-rank hunter is worthless. Hanel might have been granted the title, but he can't function as an official hunter. With such an abysmal standing, all the theoretical and tactical knowledge he possesses is completely meaningless if he doesn't have a high rank to back it up. Simply put, all his effort so far has been a pointless grind. Crushed by this reality, Hanul eventually gives up on his dream of hunting monsters. He retreats into gaming to distract himself, but even after 7 years, he can't quite let it go after all. Without a solid career, he's living an aimless life, unsure of how to make a proper living. Right now, his only path forward is playing video games full-time. He has become obsessed with a game called Monsters Block Monsters, also called MBM as the name suggests. You fight monsters using other monsters out of countless species. Players are given the freedom to recruit and harness their units, potential to push back hostile waves. In this brutal tower defense game, on paper the mechanics sound simple, but they are anything but simple. If you've ever played something like Bloons TD5, then you know what I'm talking about. This game demands rock-solid rocket science, level placement strategies, and optimal methods to push each unit to its absolute limit. It allows you to upgrade monsters, but the progression is agonizingly slow. Even if you manage to grind your ass off and upgrade units crucial to your strategy, their levels reset completely if they fall in battle. Permadeath is real here. There is absolutely no way to recover the stats of a deceased monster. While these unforgiving mechanics make the gameplay thrilling, they've also attracted a ton of hate, earning it the reputation of being a historically trash game. For instance, the game literally allows you to take down a magnificent 3-star ogre, using just a 1-star goblin, if your strategy is flawless. But as they say, one man's trash game is another man's treasure. Hanul actually earns a decent living by live streaming this game, because his sharp critical thinking allows him to beat it with ease. Consequently, he's earned the title of a hardcore veteran within its community. Monsters Block Monsters has been his only lifeline since his hunter career tanked. Unfortunately, he won't be able to pursue this path much longer, as this will be his last day playing this game. After all, the game developers are shutting it down. Keyboard warriors on the internet are mocking him, and his loyal community is left wondering what he'll do next. They figure he must have a valid hunter license, assuming it's no big deal if he loses his streaming gig. The brutal reality is that he isn't a working hunter, a realization that stings deeply, yet he refrains from revealing this crucial detail publicly. Brushing off his anxieties, he decides to play to his heart's content, considering it's his last day on the server. A special event is currently taking place in-game, simply known as the Wave. The objective is straightforward. Protect your castle from endless hordes of monsters pouring out of a portal. The wave this veteran is about to challenge is the 700th, dubbed uncharted territory. Up until now, no one has been skilled or lucky enough to reach this milestone, leaving Hanul both excited and anxious. He launches the game and a massive swarm of monsters begins spawning from the primordial gate. As the overwhelming beast horde charges forward, he deploys his level 100 archer to thin the herd. However, a single archer isn't nearly enough against that swarm, and ends up getting slaughtered. It's a devastating loss still. He hasn't lost hope. The next troop to step up to the plate is his level 130 succubus queen. Tragically, she too becomes lunch for a massive three-headed hound. One by one he loses all his high-ranking units, eventually leaving his defenses completely dry. Just when all hope seems lost, the game throws a massive curveball, challenging the 700th wave for the first time. Has triggered a special condition, allowing a character named Sovereign to awaken and step onto the battlefield. The Sovereign is a majestic, blue-haired sword knight with an unknown gender. Hanul is floored by this unexpected turn of events. Usually sovereigns are essentially NPCs. They aren't supposed to make a move. As the horde of monsters lunges forward, this divine beauty stands right over the castle's gate, completely unfazed, drawing her sword. The sovereign swings it with lethal grace, leaving a trail of divine light that slices through the monsters, like they are playing a fucked up version of Fruit Ninja. Even Hanul, who has played this game thousands of times, is absolutely mesmerized by the character's sheer strength. Another wave of monsters barrels toward them. They leaps into the air and unleashes another arcane flash of light, devastating the enemy ranks. They continue to pummel the beasts until eventually, all that remains are massive piles of corpses. Much to our boy's shock, this marks the official completion of the 700th wave. For his entire streaming career, he believed sovereigns had no purpose, other than looking pretty in the background. This is completely wild. This sovereign is a literal cheat code. Suddenly he realizes, there aren't any viewers left to celebrate this unprecedented achievement. His stream had crashed, leaving only a single viewer in the chat. This mysterious viewer starts expressing deep gratitude for the effort Hanul put into conquering the world. The commenter rejoices, stating that thanks to Hanul, they will finally be able to live in harmony, since he helped awaken their lord. Hanul has no clue what the hell this person is rambling about. Things only get weirder when an arcane portal suddenly rips open in his room, and a holographic system window materializes, revealing he has awakened a new skill. The mention of a new skill triggers a memory of his old teachers. They used to say that, while E-rankers are generally incapable of surviving dungeons, a lucky few sometimes awaken additional skills later in life. It's incredibly rare, which is why this phenomenon is known as reawakening. Realizing he's been granted a second chance, Hanul decides to capitalize on the opportunity. He is absolutely fired up to make his grand debut as a hunter. Once again, however, despite his reawakening, his main status window shows no signs of change, a detail that leaves him highly curious. His hope is revitalized when a secondary notification pops up, granting him access to the details of his new skill. The summary presents him with two options. He can make a deal with the sovereign or converse with the sovereign. Having no clue what either actually entails, he blindly picks one. He selects deal with the sovereign, yet right before the skill activates, a flashing red alert warns him that he lacks the required gold to trigger the condition. Hanul feels thoroughly exasperated. Just when he thought he was one step closer to his dream, he's thrown 2 steps back. The soft glow of his monitor sparks another idea. He decides to interrogate the sole viewer, who was yapping all that cryptic gibberish earlier. As soon as he boots his stream back up, the viewer pops right back online. For simplicity's sake, let's just call this mysterious guy Viewer 1. After locking the stream, to ensure it remains a strictly one-on-one chat, Hanul proceeds to fire off the daunting questions he desperately needs answered. Since this user appeared at the exact moment his reawakening triggered, Hanul is certain they hold the answers. Without beating around the bush, he straight up asks Viewer 1 if they know anything about his reawakening. Much to his astonishment, the viewer confirms it, Connell always knew awakening was a phenomenon entirely beyond human control. Could it be that the entity on the other side of the screen is responsible for helping him reawaken? He follows up by asking why this sudden event happened. After all, why would an unknown being bother interfering, just to grant a washed-up gamer a second shot? The mysterious entity simply replies that the sovereign has chosen him, and that's all there is to it. As for why the Lord is granting this massive favor, it's solely because Hanul was the catalyst who awakened their Lord in the first place. The entity reassures him that the thick cloud of confusion currently muddling his thoughts will naturally disperse with time. As for the newly granted skills, Hanul should simply consider them a token of their Lord's profound gratitude. Hanul drops the interrogation, now strictly focused on figuring out how to actually utilize these new gifts. The skill titled Conversation with the Sovereign has a cooldown, meaning he has to wait before activating it. He accepts that, but he demands to know why. The other skill is currently locked behind a paywall. The mysterious entity suddenly realizes its oversight and immediately rectifies the mistake by directly depositing 50 gold into Hanul's system wallet. Now flush with the required currency, Hanul can finally test his skills to his heart's content and piece the puzzle together at his own pace. With its duty fulfilled, the entity bids him farewell and logs off the stream. Hanul is totally lost. He even tries pinching himself, just to make sure he isn't trapped in some stupid, hyper-realistic dream. Regardless, one thing is absolutely certain: this reawakening isn't just a random fluke. This mysterious entity known as the Lord is directly behind it. Suddenly a system notification pings, alerting him to a 50 gold deposit. This newly acquired currency finally allows him to activate his skill. Deal with the Sovereign instantly. A massive digital storefront materializes right in front of him, displaying a long list of monsters available for purchase. Looking at his wallet, the only unit he can currently afford with his measly 50 gold is a slave goblin. Everything else is outrageously expensive. The most expensive character on the roster is the Sovereign themselves, boasting an asking price of 11 digits, a bafflingly long string of numbers that hurts his brain just looking at it. Naturally, our boy would love to add her to his arsenal, but the sheer cost is staggering. However, it isn't the skill itself that fascinates him. It's the fact that this system window looks identical to the one in his game. The tiny holographic projections of the monsters, spinning next to their price tags, are almost a one-to-one replica of monsters, block monsters with only a few subtle differences. Since the game mechanics allowed him to summon the units he owned, Hanul deduces that it should work the exact same way in reality. A sassy smirk creeps onto his face. He doesn't need to be physically strong to be a top-tier hunter. He can simply have his summons do the heavy lifting. Speaking of gold, a realization hits him. In MBM, players had two ways to line their pockets: clearing dungeons or hunting monsters and selling the loot. Applying those game mechanics to reality, he figures he needs to slaughter some monsters to farm the gold he desperately needs. The glaring issue, however, is that his current physical stats are sitting at rock bottom, way too low to even hunt a lowest grade slime, let alone anything dangerous. Left with no other options, he confirms the transaction for the slave goblin. A blue pokeball consisting of his slave goblin materializes. In reality, the scene shifts to the bustling Hunter Association building. Hanul is here to officially register himself as a solo E-rank hunter. After the receptionist pulls up his fresh record, she finds 4 available jobs suited for a rookie of his standing. Hanul carefully compares the options and deliberately settles on the one that seems the least suitable for his meager physical abilities: a goblin extermination quest in a remote village behind the mountains. The attendant quickly warns him that the designated area is completely out of reach for emergency support. If shit hits the fan, he will be entirely on his own. But that is exactly what our boy wants. The last thing he needs right now is to attract unwanted attention, while feeling a pang of pity for someone so young, potentially throwing his life away. The attendant updates his status. Following biometric verification, the registration process concludes, and she promises to text him the relevant mission details. Hanul is cleared for deployment, and practically buzzing with anticipation for his debut. Upon finally arriving at the remote village, The client who issued the commission comes rushing out to meet him. The old man is overwhelmingly grateful that a brave hunter actually accepted his request. After all, very few awakeners would volunteer to trek all the way out here for such a pitiful payout. Even so, the elder looks skeptical that a scrawny kid like Hanuel can handle those nasty creatures alone. He genuinely worries for our boy's safety. Appreciating the old man's sincerity, Hanuel flashes a confident smile and reassures him that he won't let those vile creatures defile the village any longer. Venturing deep into the forest, where the goblin nest is supposedly located, Hanuel stumbles upon a rather unexpected sight. Instead of acting like disheveled creatures driven by primal instincts, this group of goblins is casually chilling by a stream, drinking water like regular humans. Brushing off the weirdness, Hanuel opens his inventory and pulls out his newly acquired familiar, which is currently resting in its blue blob form. Channeling his inner Pokemon trainer, he throws the blue Pokeball at blazing speed toward the creatures. The sphere lands right in front of the bewildered goblins. For a tenth second, absolutely nothing happens. Hanuel finds himself in incredibly hot water. His Pokeball seemingly failed to deploy. Realizing the human standing before them is hostile, the goblins instantly bare their sharp claws and close the distance, ready to rip him to shreds. Knowing he has no other choice, Hanuel braces himself to fight bare-handed. Instead of fleeing, he balls up his fist ready to throw a desperate counterpunch. However, just as a green menace is about to sink its claws into him, the system finally triggers. The goblin summon makes a badass explosive entry, materializing out of thin air, and brutally knocking the hostile monster away with a massive club. Seeing his summon up close makes something click in Hanuel's brain. When he first started streaming MBM, the very first monster he obtained was a standard slave goblin. Over time he had equipped that lowly minion with god-tier items, evolving the trash-tier creature into an absolute Chad that soloed 100 waves of ferocious monsters. Completely unassisted, he had named that goblin Gono. Looking at the familiar stats, it becomes glaringly obvious. This creature is rocking the exact same top of the line, a rank equipment Hanuel had grinded for. This solidifies his belief this is his Gano brought to life. Gano goes absolutely batshit crazy, literally tearing the two frontline goblins limb from limb. The third and final goblin, utilizing its last few remaining brain cells, turns and bolts in the opposite direction. Unfortunately for the fleeing monster, Gano is equipped with Raven's wing-beat shoes. Moving like a literal flash of lightning, the familiar zips across the clearing, and splits the final goblin into pieces before it can even scream. Hanuel is left standing there, with his jaw practically glued to the floor. He never truly realized how terrifyingly strong Gano was. In a realistic setting with the threat neutralized, the blood-soaked familiar trots back to his master, producing a surprisingly cute puppy dog face, as he insists on a head pat for a job well done. Once again Hanuel is left speechless. He never expected to experience this wholesome side of a monster's personality. The system chimes notifying him that Gano's affection level currently stands at 20 out of 100. Further details that reaching maximum affection will unlock a brand new skill. The usually pragmatic gamer, who is previously hesitant to even touch his summon, immediately drops to his knees and hugs the goblin, like he is his long-lost brother from another mother. Back to the main agenda, Hanuel notices a glaring issue. The corpses haven't dropped a single piece of loot. How is he supposed to farm gold? Thankfully Gano already has it figured out. The familiar leaps from corpse to corpse, driving his hands into their chests to harvest their life essence, which takes the form of faintly glowing monastones. A portal of arcane blue energy materializes nearby, and Gano casually tosses the stones inside. In exchange for the 3 low-grade cores, the Lord's Castle of Illusion directly deposits 30 gold into Hanuel's account. It all makes sense now. Instead of monsters dropping physical coins, he has to extract their mana stones and exchange them via the system. Honor showers Gano with more affection for figuring out the mechanics so quickly. Now that the gold is secured, he prepares to collect physical proof of the quest's completion for the association. But it seems those 3 goblins were merely the appetizer. A sudden violent commotion erupts from the depths of the forest, demanding their attention. With each passing second the earth rumbling thuds intensify. Trees are violently shredded and crumpled into splinters, as a giant behemoth makes its grand entrance. It's an ogre. Hanul instantly starts questioning his life choices. An ogre of this massive size is strictly supposed to spawn in B rank gates, or higher. It makes absolutely no sense for it to be wandering around an E rank quest zone. However, a prominent detail catches his eye. The monster is heavily panting and covered in fresh gashes. It has clearly already been in a brutal fight. Still, injuries are no excuse to underestimate a boss-level threat. To make matters infinitely worse, a system alert flashes red. Gano only has 3 minutes remaining before his summon duration expires. The loyal familiar steps forward, completely unfazed by an opponent quadruple his size. Gano shoots his master a confident glance, silently asking for his trust. Activating his Raven's wing-beat shoes, the goblin launches into a high-speed sprint, straight toward the towering beast. The behemoth roars, swinging a massive, uprooted tree trunk like a baseball bat, to sweat away the incoming pest. But Gano is devastatingly quick on his feet. He leaps high into the air, taking a midair stance, to accelerate his momentum to the absolute limit. He descends like a goddamn meteor, aiming his club squarely at the ogre's skull. The ogre desperately throws its massive arms up to shield its vitals. Gano doesn't let up. The immense pressure quickly becomes too much for the beast to handle, resulting in a sickening crunch, as its arm bones shatter and its ribs cave in. Pushing his amplified strength even further, Gano unleashes a shockwave that sends thunderous ripples through the forest, forcing Hanul to skid backward just to stay upright. Ultimately, the ogre is completely crushed beneath the sheer kinetic force. Hanul is absolutely floored by this astronomical display of raw power, rushing over to celebrate the victory with a happy little dance. Only 3 seconds left on the clock before he vanishes. Gano hurriedly extracts the massive mana stone from the ogre's chest and offers it up. The familiar then dissipates back into his blue orb form, leaving Hanul holding a chunky high-quality core. The arcane portal reappears to claim the prize, tossing the low intermediate mana stone inside. Nets him a massive 100 gold deposit, pushing his current haul to a comfortable 130 gold. It seems the system has one more surprise in store, because this marks his first official monster takedown. Hanul is rewarded with a premium gacha ticket. This ticket allows players to roll for exceptionally rare items, though any veteran knows the drop rates are usually absolute trash. Activating the ticket causes an ornate chest, full of mysterious goodies, to materialize before him. The fascinating truth is revealed by the system. The god-tier gear he pulls from the gacha isn't just for his summons. He can actually equip the items himself, to boost his own rock-bottom stats, before he can celebrate his newfound potential. The sound of snapping branches alerts him to incoming company. A fully armed group of awakeners rushes into the clearing, clearly tracking the trail of the wounded ogre. The trail does indeed lead them right to their target, but the problem is it's already dead. As soon as Hanul gets a clear look at the squad, his heart sinks with despair. He instantly recognizes the woman leading the pack, Yunsua, the formidable leader of Team 2 from the prestigious Pungbak Guild. It's immediately obvious that her team had been the ones fighting the ogre earlier, whittling it down before it escaped. Dealing with a high-ranking guild over a stolen kill is never going to be easy. Hanul tries to quietly hightail it out of the area, but Esua barks at him to freeze. Her squad instantly fans out and surrounds him. After formally introducing herself, she sharply explains that the abnormal ogre was their designated prey. She is visibly thrilled with neither the situation, nor the fact that someone else seemingly sniped their kill. It's an incredibly tense situation for our boy. Esua glances at the fallen ogre, wondering just how this guy managed to defeat the monster alone. Even if they had been wounded in the fight, 3 of them as B ranks were trying their hardest to defeat and couldn't. And judging from this information, she concludes that this guy must at least be in a rank. Reacting accordingly, she extends her hand, introduces herself as Esua from the Pungbak Guild. The baddie wants to see what kind of guy she's dealing with, so Hanul reacts calmly with an introduction of his own. The shocking part is that Esua can sense that an archangel is actually interested in the person standing in front of her. This annoys her, and she just can't place a finger on what makes this simple-looking guy so special. Curious about his abilities, she asks Hanul if he hunted the monster alone. He vaguely replies, admitting that he did. This puts her on edge, making her wonder if this dude is hiding something. She then explains that they were the ones involved with the ogre's previous battle, and how she's glad that he managed to stop the monster before any damage could be caused. Our boy casually responds by saying that he got lucky, but Sue knows that he's saying bullshit, because an ogre can't be killed by luck alone. Now she's fully suspicious of him, and to react accordingly, she agrees to hand over all of the payout reward to the ogre they were chasing. Basically, the Pungback Guild will personally reach out to Hunter Hunul for his role and deal him the payment. This is a shocking favor even for Hunul, who can't believe that they're being too nice by handing away their own prey. Sue is sharp because she adds a return condition, a question that she's been meaning to ask. Of course, our boy knew that the deal was too good to come for free, but he's surprised when this girl casually extends her phone. Hilariously, Sue looks like a petite girl trying to ask out her crush's number. Right now even she's flustered while asking for his number. While our Giga Chad, Den's protagonist, doesn't even know what the heck is going on, the scene cuts to our boy meeting with the villager uncle, who is greatly indebted to the hunter for saving their lives. Hunul is just happy that he cleared a safe path for them up the mountain and learns how these villagers have had it rough. The chief wants to repay him. The offer comes in handy because Hunul is really curious to know about the location of the famous training monument landmark. The old man guides him down a path straight down, assuring him that he'll find it at the end, and that the same path inspires good luck. Hunul is in a positive mood, even if he doesn't believe in superstitions. This is also where he manifests the treasure chest for the gotcha pull. Basically, bro wants to maximize his luck before he opens up the notorious chest, hoping that something good will come out of it. His phone rings. It's actually Sue again, who messages him to arrange a reward for the kill. He's actually pretty stunned that she's taking great interest in him. The really interesting part is that she's even using her personal phone number instead of their guild. Regardless, Hunul isn't a simp and cares only about opening the treasure chest right now, one he'd never imagined he'd open in real life. Even though the drop rates on this thing are genuinely dog shit, he's okay for having a chance to obtain a high rank item. Hunul doesn't even ask for much, only begging for an A rank pull, and Hunul chance open to activate the chest, letting loose a shimmering light that manifests several different weapons from various ranks. The highest rank among them is the S rank, a blood red laced with golden armor. With the introduction concluded, the light glows a severe golden before turning into red. Our boy lays his eyes on the supreme artifact in awe, as the scene ambiguously cuts off from his reward. Back at home, Hunul sits pondering the current situation. Though he's found a way to amass gold, right now his hurdle is selecting to train his monsters, not knowing what's the issue with the system. On his current monster sheet, he can hire a goblin fighter, but to his shock an ogre berserker is also available. A typical warrior goblin costs 70 gold, so that's not the issue, but the confusing part is the berserker ogre, which costs a whopping 420 gold, and even though it's out of his league, still available for hire. Suddenly it clicks in our boy's head. The system only allows him to hire monsters that he's personally killed. If that story checks out, then it is understandable why only the goblins and ogre classes are unlocked, despite the gold difference. This means that Hunul personally has to hunt these monsters, and though it seems like a difficult requirement, with his earlier gotcha pull, things look believable. By the way, bro didn't get that armor and instead acquired unique grade glasses, buffing his stats and giving him a skill. He's actually surprised that a unique grade item even came to him. The artifact is top quality and is one of a kind. By the way, a unique grade item in the game is better than 3 or more A rank items combined, making it an amazing pull. With the glasses, he decides to wear them to test their usage. Hunul checks them out for the first time and unlocks the Epstein files. I mean, the secrets of the universe. All of his stats are buffed by 5, and an added skill called Sage's Eye is now accessible. This skill allows him to infer details of his target's eyes and skills. The usage of twice per day. Basically, it's like an appraisal or a scanning skill. Hunul is impressed with his stat boost and loves the unique effect, calling it insane even checking the details of the skill. He wonders if he should use it on an enemy to test the information. But that aside, this kind of object is exactly the kind of thing he needs right now. If he can inspect the monster's exact stats, hunting will become a piece of cake. Taking them off, Hanul shares his doubts about the glasses too, questioning why he's being favored by the system. All of a sudden question of why he got chosen is drowning him, when suddenly, the system zooms a warning in his face for the incoming wave. He's advised to prepare his defenses, as the system goes utterly ballistic, hammering notification after notification. As he watches in shock, Hanul observes the game screen and to his genuine horror, he learns that a newly added 700 and first wave is going to start in 10 minutes. Bro doesn't even know how to prepare his defenses for the damn wave. All he can envision is the hellfire armies of monsters that are going to swarm him the moment that wave starts. This is like a level 1 thug facing the final boss. Bro is losing his balls and wants to decline. Fearing the outcome, the system highlights that his failure against the monster invasion will result in the destruction of the Castle of Illusions, which means every single power he has available to him will collapse. And here comes the neat part. Hanul watches the future, as he sees cities burning in the utter destruction of the world. Failure is death. The wave is about to begin, and Bro is questioning how he's gonna stop those damn monsters. The blue gate spirals like a portal, resembling the exact one from the game, but Hanul is confused on why he's being forced to participate. Then, there's the fact that his own participation results in a catastrophic world goes fuck all penalty. It's a genuinely crazy downside, but the system's decided it's round, and will commence the wave in 10 minutes, knowing that he can't overthink the current situation, and merely has to act. Our boy consolidates his goal to stop the monsters. The game has always been a simple defense game, with the objective of blocking monsters from attacking the castle. Think of it like a tower defense game, but because of this game's agonizing difficulty levels, like Hollow Knight, strategy is the main element needed to stop the monsters, and even summoning them in the correct paces. Several defensive structures from the unified castle must be utilized, alongside a bunch of items. After cooperating with all of these factors, the best strategy and tactics for each situation is devised. That's how the game works. Each control for our boy currently functions like a touchscreen. The first thing he does is check his monster inventory. For the deployment apparently, Bro has 5 deployable monsters. 4 of them are goblins and the last one is an ogre. This is an interesting revelation, because apparently, Hanul can use these creatures without having to hire them. In this mode, he wonders if he can also access the strength of the sovereign, but unfortunately it's not accessible or possible. Next, he tries to rack up on additional troops with the spending of his gold, but the system stops him from doing that too, preventing any changes after the wave notification. Bro's getting cooked, and starting to wonder if this damn system is secretly sabotaging him. The 7 o'clock first wave consists of Count Gular, as well as his elite unit of the Dragon Children. This dude is rated 6 whole stars with an additional army of 61 dragons. 6-star monster is not looking good for a fight. Star ranks are supposed to indicate combat prowess, and the rank also confirms the potential of each monster. It's obvious that if the difference between stars is too high, one monster will get squashed by the other. The real concerning part is him being tasked to deal with a fucking 6-star with his tiny squad of 1 stars. No matter what he does, the result is obvious. Bro's going to get annihilated by even a single dragon. Hanul doesn't even have gold or other monsters to help him in the strategy. Suddenly the system offers him a unique benefit, allowing him 1 defensive structure, an item that will be distributed to all his forces. Now you might think it's some kind of huge help, but our boy is offended at the fact that this system expects him to clear the stage. Like this, the situation may be insane, but Hanul needs to make the best out of what he has, especially since he's the veteran of this godforsaken shitty game. He starts manipulating the environment, figuring out a way to stop the wave from his experience. With only 8 minutes counting down, he blitzes as fast as he can, factoring all the different elements until the timer hits 15 seconds. After his preparation, the clock strikes 0. Hanul is ready to face the wave. The wave begins with the unleashing fury of the wyverns, swallowing the whole sky with their numbers as their goal. They're targeting the tower or the castle. In this case, the army is LED by the count. At the start of the wave, the wyverns are fiercely slamming the barrier, doing their best to crack an opening. The powerful Count is irked at the sight of his monsters being incapable. Several more wyverns gang up to break the reinforced structure, but this is all thanks to Hannibal's strategy. The first thing he did is use the infinite barrier perk. buffing the defenses to 100 against any attack. The infinite barrier is invincible, but it has an added condition. It can only be used when the number of monsters is below the 2-star rank. For the player, well, despite our boy's best attempts to cast the barrier, one wyvern blazingly unleashes its breath, dealing damage and obliterating the barrier. Thanks to its effects, the shield regenerates, and is the only thing that keeps the barrier alive. There's one huge problem though. It's true that the barrier considers each attack as -1 point. If all 61 dragons attack together, the durability would slam to less than half instantly. That's the loophole, but our boy's got a solution for that too. It's called spam clicking. Bro is taking inspiration from OSU players. This way the durability is boosted by 1 per each click, making his own fingers his limitations to the barrier's healing process. Honor's hand is starting to hurt, but it's the surest way to guarantee complete defense of the barrier. Next up is the bigger question. How the hell does he even manage to defeat these godlike monsters? The answer is simple. The barrier reflects the attack of one of the wyverns, hurting it by 1 point. Normally, goblins are incapable of hurting wyverns. But thanks to his special item, the Hawk and Spoon, the conditions are reversed. This rank item allows our boy to deal damage regardless of rank disparity. The wyverns are starting to taper in strength, even if it only deals them 1 health loss. One of the beasts even notices this clumsy goblin making fun of him, and despite all its rage, the dragon can't do anything at all. From the way this is going, our boy is going to require around 60 whole hours to clear the whole horde. So now, the difficult part is just withholding the barrier's recovery process. For 60 crazy hours, battle of attrition begins as Hanul spams his finger, wondering if his goblins are gonna die first or he will. The Count's forces are up against Hanul's, as both offense and defense meet a stalemate. Sometime later our boy is starting to get tired, and the moment he tries to reach for water, Bro's entire body shivers coldly. The thing is, this man isn't even allowed to interact with anything outside the game. Long story short, Hanul has to suck it up and get no rest. No water, no food, no shitting, no gooning, no beating his meat just to beat the game. With all his movements caught up, dude knows that the average person would go insane from despair. But this man is built differently, and calls it the mere start of the game. One of the dragons erupt in calamitous rage, and fires off a titanic fire breath, chipping off the barrier by a lot. Being cornered and feeling the thrill is the very reason our boy loves this game, as only 2 hours have just passed with 58 left to go. The death penalty is far too high. The whole world will meet destruction. So Hanul goes gamer god mode, and accepts complete control of the situation, vowing to fight harder. 12 agonizing hours raced by, but he's not even halfway there. The damage is eventually going to stack up, so sooner or later things could be better. The goblins are slowly chipping away at the dragons. 2 wyverns collapse, but the rest of the army remains. Still, Hanul is okay with this outcome, and just wants to continue this trajectory. 3 more monsters collapse. His spirit holds on. A day has passed and he's only cleared 10, then 12, and when a few more wyverns tried to pierce the barrier, 2 half-drakes died in the process. The Count knew his numbers were toppling. More wyverns began to fall as well as the half-drakes, and after a fucking crazy run, only 2 Mazanters remained. By this point Hanul couldn't even touch the screen, and was unable to reset the durability for the barrier. One of the goblins launches an attack, only for the wyvern to pierce past it before releasing a dual strike, headed right for the shield. This attack is the game changer. The infinite barrier is officially destroyed. Waking Hanul's soul open the few seconds he decided to rest is won. The barrier got obliterated, and if the castle takes even a single hit in its current condition, it will fall. However, Gano decides to make the sacrificial play, and heads right up to confront the dragon. I still think this is the coolest depiction of any goblin. Bro looks like he could have a whole manhwa about him anyway. The two are about to clash. Goblin against dragon. Gono's got that aura farming gaze, and literally pours his everything into smashing the monster's skull. His mace is so powerful that it stuns even our boy, defeating the dragon and even toppling the Count. With this, the wave is officially cleared. Much to Hanul's shock, he screams in celebration. But before even breathing another second, Hanul collapses instantly. The next time he wakes up is when the sun is out bright. Bro didn't even know when he got cooked. He stares at the system screen, remarking the clearance of the wave, granting him 20 wyvern bones, 10 drake scales and 5 drake hearts. These are the loot from the mission, but he doesn't really know what he's gonna use them for at all. The system then comes to explain that 3 conditions are left until he can share a conversation with the sovereign. The first condition is to amass a playtime for 50 hours, and the second for defending successfully. Hanul doesn't even know the purpose of the conversation, let alone why the heck it is blocked by 3 conditions. Regardless, bro is just happy that he's cleared 2 of them, so he'll soon be able to access the feature. Then comes the final reward, one he'll get for clearing the wave. The screen shines a bright light, blinding the room and astonishing Hanul. At that moment we get a shot of his phone. Apparently bro got called 7 whole times by his admirer Sue. Back at the Pungbek Guild, Sue's brother refuses to understand the situation. The same guy that is supposedly an E rank managed to beat an ogre. Big Shaq from the NBA over here is tall as fuck, and he thinks our boy is a fraud. But Sue emphasized that there's been rumors of Hanul's reawakening. Suyuk doesn't believe it for a bit, knowing that reawakening are pretty damn rare. At that point they find the man of the hour, Hanul himself, dashing as fast as he can for a talk. He knows that they've been waiting for a while, and apologizes for being unavailable. Even though bro is apologizing a shit ton, somehow Suyuk still has a stick up his ass, because the guy made his sister wait for 3 days. Sue hollers at her brother and tells him to stop. Meanwhile our boy takes notice of their relationship. As for Hanul, she gives him an explanation regarding the ogre's rewards, as well as the payment settlement. Our boy wants to kick things off with the association report first, so they're brought to the staff desk, where the receptionist receives Sue's personal testimony. Watching this guy take down an ogre, she knows that no one else could have arrived even if there isn't any physical evidence. Suyu, being that overprotective older brother, glares at the receptionist for even trying to question them, so she instantly folds at the same time. She argues that a monster of the B rank caliber requires proper, formal verification procedure. What that means is that they're going to be measuring our boy's stats to see if his story checks out. This is going to be done using a mana meter, and that's a problem, you see. Sue understands that this guy has reawakened, but even she couldn't check his stats. Worried, she even vouches for him, so they use a different verification method. But Hanul himself is pretty confident, and vows to do the measurement right away. In the next scene, the manometer clears one of the members' stats at D rank, and next up is our boy's turn, so Sue is naturally worried. Her brother believes this is the best situation possible, because he wants to see the kind of potential Hanul has for inspiring the constellation's interest. If he doesn't have any ability, then he's not worthy of being noted. Finally our boy places his hand on the giant stone, with nothing on him to help boost his stats. It's been a while since he stood in front of one of these, and like other hunters he too had his mana measured 7 years back. The mana meter fires up to check his stats. While his friends await patiently, Suyuk is drawn to a certain reaction, when suddenly the mana meter's measurement reaches completion. Honor stands as the evaluation clears. His new rank is a whopping S rank. A jaw-dropping crazy turn of events that steals everyone's attention. The S rank descriptor is something that not even Hanul himself had any idea about until he got the final reward for the mission. You see, back then he acquired a new skill. It's called the Lord's Afterimage, which adds the strongest monster of the previous wave stats to the player stats. However, the stat is only accessible for 30 minutes, and can only be used once per day. Basically bro can use Count Guler's stats for the allotted time period, and that's what he did, buffing himself to obscene levels. He got the perfect skill for the measurement, because while the skill is active, his powers are comparable to an S rank. No one can feel a thing. The world will simply consider him an S rank rookie. Both siblings are stunned. Even Suyuk has to offer a compliment despite his hesitation. With the measurement concluded, he is officially recognized as the person to defeat the ogre. One of the members assures him that it's all they needed. Hanul thanks the siblings for helping him progress the process. Smoothly he wants to head out straight away. But as he's leaving, So Hyuk stops him for a chat over coffee. He is inviting him as the vice guild leader too. So it's a grand invitation that catches the attention of everyone else. The people are interested in this development, only for our boy to act extra smug by rejecting the offer, believing that he only needs Sua for any information regarding the guild. Saying so, Hanul walks away from the scene, leaving her pissy brother at a loss for words. He comes back home and his face is everywhere on the news. The stream has just started. with the Hunter Association declaring his current rank as B rank. By the way, this is because the association doesn't allow a hunter to jump more than 3 ranks at one time. Well, even his own stream is having some commenters shitting on the trash. Gamebro plays it chill and acts like he's not the one they're talking about. The viewers are going crazy for the secret S rank, who stood up to Suyak. They speculate that this dude might end up joining the guild, but also learn about the rumor of him rejecting it. While they're glazing and talking about him, Hanul adds that he's got some new content for the viewers. It's actually hunter-related content, but the viewers aren't as much interested. He decides to pioneer their interest by asking their suggestions to clear a specific dungeon. They're stunned that he's gonna stream the entire raid experience, as that's considered straight up illegal. There's a confidentiality agreement for hunters that can't be violated. Instead, Hanul intends to just post the clearance certificate and then tell the story himself. They all think his story is gonna be peak. The guilds, who are actively trying to hide the secrets of the dungeons, will fail because of one streamer. One viewer suggests taking on the Mad Dragon's Nest, but then another drops 50,001 for the Giant's Kitchen dungeon. And then a third viewer drops $1,000,000 begging him to rip off the Queen's legs in the Spider's Forest. The difference between 50,000 and 1,000,000 is insane, but the donations are even overwhelming for our boy. He tells them to calm down and stares up at the highest notification. 10 freaking million won have been allotted to him, earning the shock and attention of every other viewer. Bro's got a whale for a fan, but in reality, it's the assistant of the sovereign who wants to talk to our boy. Hanul can only wonder where he's being sent for such an enormous amount, so he asks for the viewer's recommendation. The entity responds by suggesting he head to the deepest part of the Garden of Meditation. The other viewers believe this request is a death trap, because no one has ever been able to clear it. The Garden of Meditation has 3 whole sectors: the entrance, the lake, and the deepest part. The entrance is relatively considered safe for a hunting ground. The real kicker is the lake in the center, inviting new levels of danger. Nobody even knows what the deepest part holds because they couldn't get past the lake. The only person who managed to get this far was Suyak himself, who reached his limits and stopped progressing further. And now he's being asked for that same mission, which is impossible even in Hanul's own analysis. Viewer 1 adds that he doesn't have to clear the dungeon itself. He is fine with the mission as long as Hanul reaches the deepest part. This changes up the difficulty a bit, though he's even assured added support if Bro ends up clearing the dungeon fully. The rest of the viewers vouch against this crazy request, knowing that it's going to get the streamer killed. In the name of content, admittedly, our boy knows the gravity of the situation, but he's okay with just reaching the deepest part and returning back. Then there's the fact that viewer 1 himself wants him to complete the dungeon, and even offered his support for it. Hanul really isn't looking forward to this mission, but ultimately shouts loudly that he's ready. Let's visit the Hunter Bureau, where the receptionist is taking his request to challenge the Garden of Meditation on a solo expedition. After hearing his interest in exploring the deepest part, she reminds him that it'll be the most dangerous journey on his own. Hanul tells her to just process his request, so she lodges him for something in a week. However, our boy urges her to make clearance sooner. It's not like he has to take anyone on a solo expedition. After all, she offers him tomorrow for a slot, something Hanul is fine with. He's expected to come by at 4, and so Hanul leaves having made his appointment. While he's exiting the building, an interesting duo drops by, vying for his attention for a chat. We have Myung-hoon and So-won, both individual HR team leaders of the Aegis and Sanray Guild. Meeting him, our boy realizes that they must be familiar with his evaluation reset recently. Both Aegis and the Sanray Guild are thrilled to welcome him aboard. They're actually 2 of Korea's big 3 guilds. They are both interested in offering way more attractive terms than whatever Pung Baek asked of him, but our boy is genuinely uninterested in any guild conversation, and walks away focusing on his mission. He doesn't really have any consideration for joining a guild, as it will hold him back. What he needs to prioritize is the dungeon. And speaking of it, Suyak receives a fresh report from our boy himself about his mission. Hanul explains his intention to reach the deepest part, the same part that not even Suyak couldn't reach. That's why he's calling the S ranker for information. Of course, Suyak knows that he doesn't have to give up anything, until our boy reveals that he's got a secret way to clear the dungeon. This statement stuns the vice leader, while our boy assures him that he'll publicly announce that he cleared the dungeon with Pangbek's help. This creates an equal incentive to share the information, which is why Suyak is willing, though he's curious if Hanul really has a way to clear this dungeon. Our boy asserts his confirmation, so the vice leader acts upon another proposal, urging him to join the guild. Of course our boy denies immediately, right? When Suyak tries to pretend that he's the only one showing interest, Hanul shares that both Aegis and Sunray guilds have respectively contacted him too. This information hits the vice leader like a truck, because it only confirms that the other two leaders are making a move. On the fly Hanul presses on, believing that Pangbek's offer holds little regard to him. Defeated in the negotiation, Suyak agrees and makes one thing deliberately clear. He doesn't have any information on the deepest part, and that the dungeon structure could have changed over the course of the year. Hanul is okay with that and makes the best of what he can. He arrives at the designated spot wearing his glasses, and immediately the men in front of him take notice. Kwangsu introduces himself as one of the Bulgo Guild. Our boy returns the greeting, but the Baldy already knows a crap ton about the kid. Thanks to the evaluation, he's a stuck-up who hasn't worked with an S rank before, and takes issue with our boy applying solo. Bro's a sore loser, and rudely explains that his guild has a mission to carry out, so he's not gonna offer any help at all. Feeling no threat at all, Hanul agrees to the setting. Egghead walks away acting like S rank means nothing in a real fight. Even Hanul didn't expect these guys to be on their period. On the first day he's lucky to have gotten in, but for dungeons like these, a minimum party size is required with a month-long reservation. The party members have waited for a while, and our boy managed to get in on day one, so they're upset about that. Regardless, he activates his Sage's Eye to infer their ranks. All of them are garbage, and won't be able to keep up with our boy in the deeper parts. This means they could be being used for spying. Regardless, Hanul knows he won't be running into them. The bald head turns back to question why he's smirking. Hanul tells them he remembered a funny joke, but the idiots are so insecure that they take it as offense and want to beat him up. In the middle of this, the staff member opens the gate for the dungeon raid, inviting crackling green lightning. The hunters are told to speedily advance or else the gate won't hold, and it's actually our boy's first time entering a real dungeon. Hanul heads inside curious to see what awaits him, as the system screen outlines basic details, like dungeon capacity per raid. Here the sovereign servant bids him the best of luck with his support, partially modifying the landscape of the dungeon. The party members are here, but Egghead senses that something is wrong from the start. He can barely recognize this damn place, as it's nothing like the entrance. Bro sees Vietnam flashbacks, while his buddies are questioning why there's a lake here. The entrance isn't supposed to be like this. Some of them even know about what it looks like. It's a first for Hanul, who understands that the entrance is meant to be an easy clearance. From the information that Suyak described, this version is nothing like the entrance at all. Then our boy realizes something. The system screen officially announces them with a new briefing, welcoming the hunters to the lakeside. The hunters are pulling their hair for an explanation, while the system shares the Pygmalion massacre. This is their mission, to protect the pig mallets from the hands of their slayers. Until the night, passing this mission earns passing through the lake, and grants entry to the deepest part. But if they fail, every single challenger will die. This is a critical downside. The C rankers are losing it, and they are not ready for this mission. To the point Kwang Su's men want him to bail out, but the moment they try to access their status window to bail out of the mission, these guys realize they can't quit at all. Egghead has been trying to escape for a while now, but he's stuck all the same. The current number of pig mallets is 130, with 2 already having been slaughtered, dragging the number down to 1 o'clock. 28 Kwang Su is panicking, and asked the local S-rank hunter for an explanation, asking for any clues on how he could help them. Our boy calmly explains that he doesn't know a thing about what's going on, so he has information regarding the lake. His words light up Kwang Su's confidence, as he begs our boy to fill them in with the information too. They're happy to assist in any way they can. Hanul laughs at the irony that because these are the same dudes who were berating him earlier, he makes a condition in order to cooperate with them. First he'll share what he knows, but they're gonna have to follow his orders in exchange, until the whole thing is cleared. If they can agree to that request, he's happy to explain it all. The deal threatens the authority of the guild, as it will allow Hanul to displace their leader. But it's not like they have a choice, as the system hammers down another decrease in number for the mallets. Wangsu knows they're cooked if they don't comply, so the egghead agrees to the plan, as long as Hanul can take the fall if his plan self-destructs. But that's an unfair condition, since our boy is already offering a reward. Kwang-su patiently listens and agrees to hear him out. Hanul explains the details of the terrain they're dealing with. He maps out the exact structure of the lake sector. The massive lake situated at the dead center of it streams all over the forest in a web pattern. Even the egghead is stunned by his rich information sources, but Hanul keeps it simple and explains that he's got a scouting skill. Kwang-su is shocked and feels happy, because they could never get lost with this guy on their side. Even the layout is in cohesion with the information Suyuk shared. More precisely, what's happening right now is that our boy is using the sacred map, given to him by viewer 1. It's a gift from the castle, so he doesn't have to do much of the heavy lifting. The mission is pretty simple. They'll save the pig mallets from being slaughtered, but that means locating them is important too. All of them reside in the wetlands, so there are 8 total nesting zones to target. From then on they just have to dash quickly, before the Slayer has the chance to eradicate a zone. Hanul intends to gather them into a collective spot for easier defense. That's about the start of the plan, and he wants them to act immediately. As the number topples further down, even as they're not doing anything, they're losing numbers, and because of that urgency, Kwang-su's group blasts away to locate the zones. So he's curious what the S-rank hunter intends to do, to which Hanul explains that he'll handle the pig mallet solo. The guild leader leaves him to his business, allowing our boy the privacy he's been meaning to have. His goal is to scout the area using the map of the lake. Apparently there's a hidden mission in this zone with a special reward, and our boy mainly wants to fulfill that mission. The hunt is about to begin, but first he needs to figure out 2 things during the scouting: the hidden mission itself, and then the identity of the slayers killing the pig mallets. Apparently there are several kinds of monsters here, so he's got to know who they are. Spying on a group, Hanul observes a bunch of lizard men looking beefy as hell. He's actually stunned, and realizes that these guys must be the slaughterers, responsible for killing the pig mallets. His plan just got a whole lot more complicated, because even though the lizard men are only at a D rank level, a huge pack of them is a pain in the ass to deal with. Knowing he shouldn't engage in combat, Hanul tries to leave when suddenly 2 idiots waltz in, talking smack about him. The worst part is that they're both headed in this direction, jeopardizing our boy's safety in the process. The big mouth is talking high and mighty, until this man's head literally gets taken right off his shoulders. One of the monsters lunged right in and slaughtered the human. His head spools out blood, watching the merciless lizard men pop out of nowhere. The other dude gets riled up and tries to attack the monster, but recklessly his rage-filled fists attack the creature with every punch. Bro's fury knows no bounds as he lands the final attack. But here's the shocking part. None of that did any damage at all. This is because the lizard men collectively have access to a swarm team bonus. That same tiny D-rank monster they had. It experiences a 2-stage evolution and jumps up to B class when they're together because of this insane buff. The creature rips his arm right off his body, rendering the guy screaming for his life. Then, the monster takes its weapon and is about to deal the killing blow, when suddenly the king of Aura himself, Gano, arrives and blocks it. This chat of all goblins has been summoned to even the odds. The C-ranked guy from the Bulgul Guild cannot believe his eyes, that he has just been saved by a lowly goblin slave. Hanul shows up from behind, and reminds the big guy that he asked them to stay at their designated places in the dungeon. The big guy explains that he simply got lost along the way, and somehow ended up in this section by mistake. Connell tells him to retreat and take care of his wounds, while he handles the lizard man himself. He then orders Gano to quickly clear the surrounding monsters. He is already short on time, and still needs to locate a special quest, hidden somewhere in the dungeon. Gano moves immediately and activates Raven's wing beat. He dashes past the lizard men so fast that they can barely track his movement. The named goblin slave takes down one monster after another, before the lizard men even realize what is going on. Meanwhile, Hanul stands calmly watching the fight while enjoying as a spectator. Even though the lizards heavily outnumber Gano, he knows they stand no chance against him. Just then, one of the lizard men seems to use all its brain cells at once. It realizes that attacking Hanul directly might be their only option, and suddenly leaps at him, aiming for a one-shot kill. Hanul instantly activates Lord's Afterimage, and draws the stats he gained from Count Guler in the previous wave, getting S rank strength for half an hour. He easily knocks the monster away as if it were nothing. By that time, Gano has already finished clearing the remaining brain-dead lizards. Hanul praises his goblin servant and pats him, even though he finds the whole interaction slightly sus. And as expected, the goblin blushes while the affinity increases by another 10 points. He then sells the mana stones he collected and earns some easy gold. Since this is his first time selling a lizard man stone, the Lord's Castle of Illusion grants him a bonus reward. Luckily once again, he hits the jackpot and receives another gacha pull ticket, which he decides he will spin. Only after the mission is fully taken care of, Gano then taps at his wrist, trying to remind Hanul that his time limit is about to run out. Just as Hanul starts wondering whether there is any possible way to deal with the ticking timer, the goblin slave suddenly begins to resemble those greedy goblins, obsessed with gold at that exact moment. The system pops up with a notification, informing him that he can simply pay 5 gold for every additional 10 minutes, if he wants to keep his monster summoned longer. The streamer dude finds this move extremely lowly of the system, noting how it constantly tries to suck him dry whenever it gets the chance. He also knows he does not really have another option available. Before he can think further, he hears a strange rumbling noise, and suddenly, a massive herd of Pygmalions comes charging straight toward him. Sweat slowly trickles down his face, as he wonders how he is supposed to control such a large group of what should be easy targets. Once again Gano steps in to save the day. By communicating directly with the pygmlets, the goblin captures their attention, and passionately praises his master, telling them how much Hanul genuinely wants to protect and save them. The Pygmalions instantly burst into tears after hearing the emotional speech, and rush toward Hanul desperately trying to show their gratitude. Just like that, Hanul finds himself able to guide the monsters like a shepherd, leading his flock. After resolving this unexpected situation, he continues scouting the area alongside his goblin, and keeps eliminating every species of lizard man that dares to approach them. However, when he later attempts to sell the mana stones again, the system suddenly flashes a red warning, informing him that the castle's funds have been completely depleted, and that he will not be able to sell or collect any more stones until additional funds are restored. It seems that Hanul has already reached the unit limit for each species of lizard man he can command. He never expected that the castle would actually run out of gold. Now that he knows there is a strict cap on how many monsters he can control, he decides to stop hunting the lizard man types, as this would be worthless for his time. He then counts the Pygmalions he personally rescued, arriving at roughly 60, and the system notifies him that a total of 70 have been saved overall. From that number it becomes obvious that the entire Bulgo Guild managed to secure only 10 on their own. All of a sudden, something shifts within the pygmies and they begin acting wildly. The so-called easy targets suddenly start running in unison, leading every player inside the dungeon toward the center of the lake. The dungeon system responds with an announcement, explaining that the slaughterers have ceased hunting the pig mallets, and that night has officially fallen. They are congratulated for successfully protecting the easy targets from the slayers. Since the total number of Pygmalions saved has reached 70, a hidden objective is also fulfilled at the same time. By now, the members of the Bulgol Guild are completely at their breaking point, shouting at the dungeon to just let them out of this nightmare. However, just as everyone assumes it is finally over, a new notification appears, and informs them that a trial of medication is about to begin. A massive wave of sparkling water suddenly surges toward everyone, and just when they believe they are finished, Pygmalots they saved grow serious and leap forward to shield them. Hanul and Gano remain standing there, visibly startled by the sudden turn of events. The system informs them that the Pygmalions, they protected from their predators, are now returning the favor. As a gesture of gratitude, Hanul can hardly believe that these easy targets actually possess such hidden potential. At that moment it finally makes sense why they were assigned the task of protecting them in the first place. He quietly wonders whether saving more would make one more safer. To test his theory, Hanul takes a quick glance at the others, noticing that most of them have barely managed to save 1 or 2 pig mallets each. The leader of Bulgog Kwang is barely holding on, and the pig mallet beside him looks like it is on the verge of breathing. Last, the rest of the Bulgog members appear to be in a similar state, which makes Hanul genuinely worried about their condition. He quickly tries to come up with a way to save all of them, and right then the system pushes out another notification, finally reveals the hidden mission that Hanul has been searching for. All this time to complete it, he must locate and suppress the true source behind this trial. On top of that, he learns that if he defeats the monster responsible for triggering this event, the trial will immediately end. Instead of lasting the full 10-minute time limit, Donald wastes no time, steadies himself and wears his spectacles. He activates his Sage's Eye skill, and quickly identifies a presence exactly where the system indicated. Upon focusing further, he confirms that it is a named monster called Zenkuruk, a highly intelligent creature possessing dangerous skills, such as Cataclysmic Wave and Storm. The realization makes him anxious, because named monsters are regarded as special beings, with unique abilities exclusive to them. Even so, he forces himself to calm down, reminding himself that a hidden mission was never going to be simple. When Gano becomes visibly excited, and prepares to charge at the monster lurking behind the massive wave, Hanul stops him and states that he will only be spectating this battle. He explains that without any water resistance, Gano would be at severe risk inside the lake, as the battlefield would pose a serious threat to him. Donald then opens his monster summoning shop, with the intention of hiring a new monster to handle the situation. From the Lord's List trade, he selects an ogre berserker, mainly because it possesses natural resistance to water. However, a new concern immediately arises in his mind, since unlike Gano, the ogre has no equipped items, which means it would most likely lose against a named monster of Zenkuruk's caliber. Realizing that he needs something to boost the ogre's stats, Hanul takes out his premium gacha ticket, despite its notoriously low success rate, and decides to use it. He hopes that the draw will give him an item capable of helping the ogre stand a real chance against Zenkuruk. The ticket activates and a golden light bursts out, forcing Hanul's eyes wide open once again. He feels a surge of excitement upon realizing that it is an S-ranked item, yet that excitement quickly turns into confusion, because the item does not appear to be something particularly useful in combat. Meanwhile, the water current continues to grow stronger, leaving him with no real choice but to summon the ogre and equip it with the item he just received. The moment he places the item on the ogre, the creature suddenly collapses to the ground. At the same time, Hanul hears a desperate scream from one of the Bulgul members, who is close to drowning, so he rushes over to help. Without hesitation, disappointment flashes across his face as he grits his teeth, realizing that he might have to handle everything on his own now. On top of that, his Lord's Afterimage only has 12 minutes remaining, after which he will revert back to being an E-ranked nobody. Even so, he chooses to prioritize saving the others, though the strain begins to show as he struggles. Despite his temporarily superior stats, just when his grip starts to loosen, and he is on the verge of letting go of the tree he is holding on to, the violent current suddenly begins to weaken. When he looks ahead, he sees the ogre standing firmly in the water, wearing what looks like a Harry Potter cap. The ogre speaks in a heroic tone, and asks his master if he has been harmed anywhere. It formally greets Hanul and introduces itself as his humble servant, behaving in a manner that looks nothing like what anyone would expect from an ogre. Hanul finds himself perplexed because from his perspective, all he had done was place an S-rank item, the Archmage Gandalf's hat, onto the ogre's head. The artifact was supposedly designed to amplify intelligence, related attributes, theoretically transforming even an idiot into a genius. However, it never once crossed his mind that elevating an ogre's intellect to such an extreme degree could produce consequences. This extraordinary still caught in his confusion. Hanul questions his servant, asking how it is even possible for him to articulate words so clearly and hold a proper conversation. In response, the ogre confidently flexes his muscles and explains, with evident pride, that the hat bestowed upon him by his master has altered his being, reshaping him into an entirely new version of an ogre. Following this declaration, the ogre respectfully lowers himself into a deep bow before Hanul, and humbly requests that his master issue a command. Hanul answers that prior to giving any direct orders, there is something he wishes to clarify. The ogre readily agrees without hesitation. Hanul then inquires whether the monster is now capable of wielding magic, to which the ogre proudly responds with a yes, explaining how he just imbued his log with it. Hearing this explanation fills Hanul with excitement, as the circumstances finally appear to be turning in his favor. Seizing the momentum, he instructs the ogre to advance directly through the violent storm, while he himself follows closely behind. Without delay, the hat-wearing ogre begins forcefully pushing his way through the overwhelming surge. Connell even gives the ogre the name Odolf, and tells him that he is depending on him. The moment he hears his new name, Odolf's cheeks turn red and tears begin to fall from his eyes. Deeply moved and filled with determination, he shouts that he will give everything he has, and even sacrifice himself to repay this honor. Odolf then charges ahead through the steam, clearing the way, and Hanul feels confident that they will arrive soon. This sudden change makes Zin Kuruk uneasy, as he realizes that someone has managed to outsmart his magic. Although he believes that whoever did this cannot be an ordinary mage, he still remains confident that breaking through his barrier will not be easy. Meanwhile, Odolf reaches the barrier and is immediately stopped by it. He informs Hanul about the blockage, and Hanul tells him to keep striking the same spot over and over, hoping that repeated force in one area might eventually break it. The ogre starts explaining using logic and mathematics why this multilayered formula barrier cannot be destroyed, but Hanul interrupts him and tells him to stop overthinking and just smash it with raw strength, instead of relying on magic alone. Even though it makes no sense to him, the servant humbly follows the order and begins hitting the barrier relentlessly, swinging as if he were playing a baseball match. Zenkarat grows more anxious as he notices the barrier weakening, but he remains calm, believing that a mere ogre cannot possibly overcome his catastrophic wave. He thinks it is impossible for anyone to master both strength and magic simultaneously, and while he continues to talk about how unbreakable the barrier is, it unexpectedly shatters. This completely surprises the lizard Zin Kuruk. He tells himself that only an ogre who is also a mage could manage something like this, which should be almost impossible. Looking at the ogre wearing a mage's cap, he cannot believe that his magic seal has been broken. He starts wondering if the ogre is actually an ogre shaman. When Hanul asks the lizard if he is Zenkarik, the lizard does not respond. Instead, he focuses entirely on attacking the enemies in front of him. He assumes that the ogre shaman must have drained a lot of mana, and that this will give him the advantage over a weakened foe. Just as the lizard is about to cast a powerful attack that could kill anyone instantly, Hanul tells Odolf to try a long-range spell to interrupt it. Connell expects a fireball or something similar, followed by a charge at the enemy, but the ogre simply throws the log at Zenkarak. The lizard does not notice that a real log is coming at him, and arrogantly claims that he has already won, insisting that no magic can break his barrier, and that he had anticipated this attack. However, when the log finally hits, all of the lizard man's confidence shatters instantly, like fragile glass, and he collapses. Defeated on the spot, Hanul turns to his massive servant and comments that the spell he used merely looked like a log being thrown, and Odolf immediately apologizes, explaining that he has not yet learned any proper spells. The scene then shifts to the Pangbek Guild headquarters, where the leader is being pressured to hire the newly awakened S-ranked hunter Hanul, quickly before their rivals get the chance to snatch him up. Despite their insistence, he sees no need to pursue some measly S-ranked hunter since he already has so many to spare. Back in the dungeon, Zin Kuruk has been successfully defeated. Odolf carefully picks up the Mona stone and brings it over to Hanul. Hanul praises the big guy for his hard work, but Odolf humbly insists that it was only possible because of his master's guidance and support. After they finish exchanging words of acknowledgement and fighting for who gets the credit, Hanul sells the special soul stone to the castle. The castle then computes the rewards, which include a special zone development permit, another gacha ticket and a small amount of gold, slightly reduced due to the lack of funds in the castle. Furthermore, Hanul now gains the ability to use Zen Karuk during his wave defenses. He decides to leave, checking the rewards for later and heads back for the time being. When he returns, he finds only the blue-haired female hunter from the Bulgo Guild. Conscious, she immediately asks if he has managed to save them all, and thanks him humbly for his efforts. Hanul inquires about the rest of her guild members, and she tells him that they are all alive, and have begun to receive proper treatment. Just then the leader Kwang arrives and asks to have a word with Hanul. The guy almost barges at him as if he is about to punch him, but unexpectedly he drops to his knees and thanks Hanul on behalf of his guild for saving everyone. He apologizes for how he treated Hanul. When they first entered the dungeon, Hanul finds it unbelievable, because he never expected the brainless musclehead to actually be capable of apologizing. He offers his hand to help Kwang up, and tells him to get back on his feet and look after his guild members, who still need him. The two shake hands, and Kwang's eyes fill with tears, as he promises to remember this debt and repay it someday. The system then notifies them that the trial of the meditation has been successfully overcome, and gives them the choice to either stay back or proceed to the deeper areas. Unconscious hunters are sent back automatically, but all others are given the option to choose. When Kwang learns that Hanul plans to stay, he tries his best to convince him to retreat for now, assuring him that they will help him regroup and return after getting fully prepared. However, when Hanul shows Kwang his monsters and explains how he already has reliable teammates to back him up, Kwang gets scared and finally understands why Hanul still wants to continue, stopping his attempts to persuade him further. All of them express their gratitude to Hanul and leave, while our boy stays behind to push forward and complete the dungeon, a feat that no one else has ever managed. Since he has also completed the hidden mission, the dungeon system informs Hanul that he will be granted a special reward, in addition to the standard ones he is receiving. The scene then shifts back to Choi Kong, who is still being persuaded to hire the new S-ranker. The vice head Pyo Myung-hoon, along with his sister, tries to explain why their top guild should bring him on board. The leader, however, keeps on rambling that they themselves are in a tight spot, and moreover, since the S-ranker is still officially registered as B-ranked in the guild, he does not see this as necessary. Just then he receives a notification that a red pattern dungeon has been detected, indicating a higher likelihood for a dungeon break to occur. He sees that the place is the Garden of Meditation, which is the same location where Hanul has gone. The leader decides to pay it a visit. A few hours later, the guild leader, along with his subordinates, arrives at the dungeon site and inquires about the situation. The dungeon force at the location explains that the dungeon has shifted into a red pattern one. They add that they have already evacuated the nearby civilians, and that they will be needing the Pungbeak Guild's assistance to handle any emergencies that arise. Myung-hoon shouts asking about the hunters inside, upon which the man in the black suit replies that 6 hunters have managed to make it out, but 1 hunter has entered the deepest part of the dungeon. Right then, the guild leader of Aegis Ma Dong and the leader of the Samurai Guild Samurai also arrive. All of them are deeply interested, as this is the first time a single hunter has been able to reach the deepest part of this dungeon. They are confused as to who could be capable of achieving such a feat, until the man in the black suit confirms that they have been informed that the identity of the person is Hanul.